The truth about M.A.I.D in Canada. I sat down with the executive director of the Delta Hospice Society to talk about this sinister and dystopian program. Here's that conversation. So today I have with me Angelina Ireland from the Delta Hospice Society. She's the executive director there. Angelina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having this discussion with me, Kat.
My absolute pleasure. So let's just get right into it, I guess. So do you want to tell a little bit about the Delta Hospice Society and who you are and what you do there?
Thank you. Yes. So we are a 34-year palliative care organization. And I was a patient over at the Delta Hospice Society, a cancer patient. And that is how I came to this fight. And when I got back to good health, thanks be to God, I joined the board of directors and eventually became the president of the Delta Hospice Society. And that is when all of the fun started for us, honestly, back in 2019. And since then, we have been fighting for the preservation of palliative care in Canada. We have been fighting for our right to have a hospice that refuses to kill our patients, and that has put us, kind of right in the crosshairs of this huge political movement called M.A.I.D.
M.A.I.D is in Canada now. It's legal. What are some of the specific challenges the Delta Hospice Society is facing in regards to M.A.I.D? Are you being forced to administer it? Are you being forced to encourage it? Tell us what's happening there.
Yeah, so exactly. So if I'll just step back here for a second for your
Sure.
audience to give them a bit of a background. And so back in about 12 years ago, we fundraised $8 million as a private organization, and we built a hospice. We built a hospice, 10 beds in the lower mainland of British Columbia. And we got into, so when that was built, we got onto a bare piece of land that we got a lease for 35 years from the Fraser Health Authority. On that barren land, we built the hospice and a supportive care center next door. And we operated that hospice for 10 years. And, it is beautiful, flagship, custom build facility to take care of people until their natural end. And everything was going great with us. We had some operating funding with the Fraser Health Authority to cover expenses in that hospice. It was about half of the budget that we had for our palliative care program, was the funding that we got from the government. Then when M.A.I.D came in 2016, everything changed for us, because I want everybody to really understand what M.A.I.D is. So M.A.I.D is an amendment to the Criminal Code of Canada, where doctors and nurse practitioners can kill their patients, and it's called non-culpable homicide. That is M.A.I.D.
Homicide. Okay.
Non-culpable homicide. So doctors and
Sounds
nurses
horrible.
who are employed by the state, they're basically bureaucrats, okay, fancy ones, because they get a check from the government to do their work. They are now being allowed to kill patients, and it is non-culpable homicide, which is the wording in the criminal code.
Mhm.
Now, right away, this should be setting off some alarm bells for your people who watch you. Like, hold on here. Okay. So the federal government then pushed it down onto the provinces, because healthcare is a provincial jurisdiction in Canada, right? Criminal code belongs to the federal government. Healthcare apparently belongs to the provincial government. And they said, carry on now and allow access to doctors and nurses being able to kill patients. Here is some criteria, some eligibility criteria, who's allowed to have it.
What was the initial criteria?
The initial criteria was through Bill C-14. That is what brought this whole thing to Canada, okay? The initial criteria was you had to have a foreseeable death, right? You have to be some sort of terminal state. A doctor could say you probably have so-and-so time left to live. That would qualify you. And so we were told as a palliative care organization, or initially, that's not something we'd have to worry about. right? Because palliative care is a 50-year medical discipline that does nothing to hasten death, period. So we wouldn't participate in killing our patients because that's not what we do. But then it became, when it came down to the provinces, particularly when it came down to British Columbia, the BC government, then headed by the BC NDP, just attacked this thing with an enthusiasm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pushed it into every hospice, every hospital, every publicly funded bed.
What do you mean by pushed? They were just encouraging, they were threatening funding. What were they doing?
That's right. You do it, or we'll take your funding away. You will no longer exist if you don't play along in lockstep with this euthanasia program called M.A.I.D. So the Delta Hospice Society said, look, we're a palliative care organization. We don't do that. That would be against the discipline that we believe in and have followed, according to people like Dr. Balfour Mount from Canada, right? The father of palliative care out of McGill University.
Okay.
That's the doctor, the master of the profession, right? We follow that protocol. So we don't do that. In fact, if you wanted it, you can go right next door. Delta Hospital has it right there. It's a minute away. So when you come to our facility, you know we don't kill you. We won't participate in the M.A.I.D program. But you can have it at the hospital. You can have it, they'll come to your house, give you a house call to M.A.I.D you, right? You can literally have it everywhere, but you can't have it here because this is a sanctuary.
Now,
and that
I
did
just want
not
to
go over
quickly
well.
ask, I just want to quickly ask, under what form of compassion did the NDP government try to say to you, to the Delta Hospice Society, that you have to have this because it's compassionate? I'm sure they had some sort of sell that,
Yes.
it sounded very pretty. It probably sounded very packaged and caring. What were
Yes.
they trying to sell it as to a hospice
Well,
society?
patient rights.
Patient rights.
Patient rights. That if a patient wants it, they can have it no matter where they are. And we said, that's really not the legislation, actually. Okay. The legislation is access, and there is more than enough access. So you're trying to make it into something that it really wasn't, because you basically wanted blanketed everywhere. Because quite frankly, if you can kill people, it's a lot cheaper than if you have to put them in a palliative care bed and a acute care bed and a long-term facility, right? We're not naive about this. We know how much it costs to take care of people. Besides, it's not the issue. We fight for those who don't want it. We fight for the choice of those people who don't want to be in a facility that has the death parties, right? The death doula comes in with the death party, and then in the middle of after the party, they kill the person, and everybody is expected to participate, right? There's some people actually who don't want to have anything to do with that. This is their place, right?
Some people would even say this is a state-sponsored killing.
That's right.
Murder.
It is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
So when you give the power to the state to kill its citizens non-culpably, that is exactly what you have, and that is M.A.I.D. So you see, we were able to hold on when the government came for us to tell us, you start killing your patients or you're not going to get any more funding.
How were
So
you
we
able to
fought
do
with
that?
them.
How were you
Sorry?
able to hold on for a bit?
Well, we just fought with them. We just said no. As everybody else was falling all around us, all the dominoes around us were falling, all the hospices were scared that they were going to lose their funding. So they started to do it. They just started to participate. They don't want to make a scene. They just want to have their money. They just want everything to carry on.
So they just went along to get along.
That's right. That's exactly what we saw.
What gave you the backbone to fight back?
Well, probably because I was a patient, right? I know what it's like to be a cancer patient, to be frightened, terrified, to have the powers of the doctors around, and you don't feel like it's equal, right? Whatever they're telling you, you believe, and to know that there needs to be someone to protect the vulnerable. There needs to be a place where those who don't want it can go. You see, to have something where everybody must, that is not choice, although they try to sell it as choice.
Right.
So we fought with, the dictator, Adrian Dix, the health minister. We fought with the Fraser Health Authority. We stood our ground. We refused to kill our patients. We fought with Dying with Dignity Canada. We fought with a local community, you name it. And eventually what happened was the government said, if you're not going to do it, you're going to lose your funding. To which we said, that's fine. Actually, we don't need your funding. We don't want your funding because we believe there's a constituency out there that actually wants the services that we provide. And we'll be just fine.
I bet they didn't like that.
They did not like that. Apparently that's the wrong answer. Right? So they said,
Right.
Then they went after our lease and they canceled our lease.
On what grounds?
That we weren't getting any more funding. So it was a manufactured lease default. They stopped the funding. They manufacture the lease default because then you're not getting any funding. Then they can go after the lease itself, which is what they did.
Mm-hmm.
So they canceled the lease. We had almost 25 years left to be on that property, of which we built those buildings.
Wow.
And they literally just evicted us. And they expropriated over $8 million of our assets of a private organization.
$8 million of a private organization.
Yes.
That seems like theft to me.
Well, this is a government who's telling the people that they know exactly what's good for them, what's the best for them, and anybody who stands in their way will be eliminated. This is stone cold communism.
Yes. This is where they tell you that the government loves you, trust us, but we're going to be systematically eliminating you, basically.
That's right.
Wow. I want to go back to something that people believe about M.A.I.D. I know that, there's a lot of people like yourself who are very aware of all the details of it, but I know there's also a narrative that the media and the government is pushing about it. And, of course, as I said, they try to package it so neatly, so compassionately under the guise of rights and freedoms, etc. So do you want to maybe go over what they try to push as the narrative, and then maybe kind of dispel some of those myths, and also maybe highlight some of the more recent news and the dangerous territory, if it could be any more dangerous, that we're wading into regarding M.A.I.D, minors, etc.
So people need to understand that there is what I will call a consortium of M.A.I.D influencers, M.A.I.D activists, so euthanasia activists, because when we're talking about M.A.I.D in Canada, we're talking about euthanasia, where they hook you up, insert it into the vein, and they kill you. That's M.A.I.D. And inside of this consortium, we have the national lobby groups, Dying with Dignity Canada, CAMAP, which are the assessors and providers, the doctors who do it, getting big money from the federal government in order to be able to, give publications and guidelines to all of the medical community across Canada about their obligation to bring up M.A.I.D, to literally sell it. So you have those people. You have the government ministries, the Federal Ministry of Health, which has invested big money and staff and time to create guidelines again, to push the euthanasia. You have the courts, the judiciary, and every level, which has consistently ruled to expand eligibility. You have the College of Physicians and Surgeons in every province across Canada that is pro-M.A.I.D, period, that refuses to discipline M.A.I.D doctors, euthanasia doctors who are killing people who aren't even eligible. You got all of these big players, right? And then, of course, keeping them all together, you've got the media, which is pushing that it's the narrative, this glue, right? That all these big players want you to love it, want you to take it. And then, the first narrative, of course, is that this is beautiful, it's peaceful, So many people have told me they've been actually in these M.A.I.D executions, and it's the most beautiful, peaceful thing because, the person just lays there. But the reality about that particular narrative is that it is likely not. What we see on the surface is likely not what's going on inside of the person's body.
Mm-hmm.
And we know this from Senate testimony from a Dr. Joel Zivot, who told the Senate during the hearings of Bill C-7 that people actually don't have informed consent around this because what's happening to them inside of their body is that it's probably painful and it's more akin to drowning or waterboarding the person to death.
Wow.
Because they're using the M.A.I.D cocktail, right? It's not just like an extra dose of morphine or something to take the person out. It's a cocktail of, first of all, midazolam, propofol, and rocuronium. The rocuronium is a paralytic. So they're putting in a paralytic into the person so that they're frozen. That's what gives the illusion of it being so beautiful and so peaceful.
That sounds horrifying.
Yes, it is. And most people have no clue about that because, they've told me, oh, I've been there. It's so lovely. And I guess maybe they're playing music in the background. Who knows what the smoke and mirrors all about. The second one is, you see, there is no drug that has ever been created to kill people. All of the drugs that they're using are off-label. So they're using drugs in a much higher dosage that they would use in a clinical setting. Propofol, for example, they use to bring people into an unconscious state, but M.A.I.D is 10 times the level of clinical use, right? So it's become a poison to kill the person. Mm-hmm. We know that propofol in clinical use actually burns as it goes into the lung, into the vein. So they use lidocaine because it's burning 10 times the clinical dosage. Dr. Zivot says it likely burns and scorches the lungs, right?
This is difficult to listen to. And this is what's happening to the people as it's being administered. They're being paralyzed and burned, and they're just trying to sell it as, oh, it's peaceful. Look at them. It's just no one's moving and there's lovely music in the background. This is sickening.
According to a 25-year anesthesiologist, those are not my words. This is not me. This is the testimony given to the Senate that they didn't care to, that they buried. Go on, it's public. Everything's public. All you need to know is where to look for it. Go to the Senate hearings, Bill C-7.
Bill C-7.
Bill C-7, Senate hearings 2016. Or sorry.
And what was the name of the name of the person giving the testimony?
Dr. Joel Zivot.
Zivot.
Z-I-V-O-T. He's a Canadian, right? He's now working in the U.S. But we put these things on our Twitter page. Mm-hmm. We now have a Twitter page. It's the last couple of months, and we are laying down all of the evidence.
Okay, I'm going to show everyone your Twitter page right now because I did have it pre-saved here, so people can see where to find you. Yep. It's the Delta Hospice Society. The handle is at DLTA HSPC Society. So go support them there. Go follow them. You can find all the information that Angelina is talking about here on their Twitter page, and their website is there in the link in the bio.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. We've laid it all down there. We brought the receipts. It's there. Go take a look. That is only the tip of the iceberg. So it's not beautiful or peaceful, right? What's the next one?
So what is their expansion? Maybe we can talk about that. What are they expanding it to? Minors? What age? What age? Ailments? What illnesses are they qualifying?
What age? Yes, there is nobody safe in this country from the euthanasia program called M.A.I.D, right? Nobody. The eligibility criteria keeps getting expanded. It started with, you have to be, foreseeable death. It then increased in Bill C-7, increased that eligibility to anybody with an intolerable situation, basically. Anybody with an intolerable, what does that mean? Well, we don't know because the definitions of these things are so broad.
Yeah.
That all you need is an assessor to check. Yes. And we know that these assessors have done 5-minute Zoom consultations and rubber stamped. All of these things are true.
Wow.
We know that even the number of people that have been euthanized in this country is unknown. You see, the government admits to certain numbers. I don't believe those numbers for a moment. The latest estimate that they gave was about 90,000 Canadians have been mated.
What gives you cause to think that they're deflating and hiding the numbers?
Because they're not transparent.
Mm-hmm.
We know that according to some very good work by by Alexander Rankin, and we again have his information on our Twitter, I'll put it up there again, is that a lot of this stuff's not making it onto the death certificate.
So they're not putting M.A.I.D on the death certificates?
That's right.
Oh. So they're just, what are they putting? Like natural cause or illness or?
Well, whatever was the reason why the
Right.
person requested.
Wow.
Cancer,
Okay.
coronary, we know that they're mating frailty is apparently now an eligibility criteria. So basically you're looking at it when you look at the numbers that they admit to.
Mm-hmm.
We know that certain places aren't even bothering to put on the death certificate. That Stats Canada does not even claim it as a reason for death. Reasons for death for Canadians, Stats Canada doesn't even have M.A.I.D there.
They don't even have M.A.I.D as a category?
No.
Stats Canada not
No.
even offering M.A.I.D as
No.
a category,
No.
as a cause of death.
No. And the numbers they admit to would bring M.A.I.D about number 4, number 5 reason for death of Canadians. It's not there.
Wow.
So,
you mentioned, sorry, I just thought of it. You mentioned that they're just having 5-minute Zoom calls and rubber stamping this. This reminds me of the whole epidemic of young people getting rubber stamped for butchery surgery if they're confused about their gender.
Yes.
This is so familiar. It seems like there's now been established this process where to cause the most heinous and radical outcome in the case of the gender stuff, radical mutilation for people that are under the age of 18. I've heard cases where, oh yes, it was a 10-minute meeting and she rubber stamped everything and I was good to go. A 16-year-old girl, etc. A quick letter over a phone call, and dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of stories like this. So this is what that reminds me of, where you can just call an assessor and they'll in 5 minutes say you're good to go for state-sanctioned murder.
Yes, we've heard these stories. We receive many phone calls. We talk to many people across Canada. We have now become a national organization.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main pillars of resistance against the euthanasia program. I call it the Canadian cull, because we see who they're going after now: the old, the sick, all the vulnerable, the disabled. We're looking at the veterans. We're looking at the poor, people who are giving out M.A.I.D information at the food banks. This isn't a joke, right? This is reality. No matter what the government tries to spin it as human rights and dignity. So you have now the human right of being murdered by the state because you're a sick, old, and poor person.
Or if you're a veteran and you served your country, instead of being taken care of, you're getting offered to be offed by the government. It's just, it's sickening.
So, one of the most terrifying pieces of all of this, as they increase the M.A.I.D eligibility, is them going after the children.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to get to. What is the criteria? What vague criteria are they offering now where children are qualifying?
Well, you see, they don't say children; they say mature minors.
Of course,
right? Just like they said mature minors when it came to mutilation,
right?
Because they were thought they were a different gender in their little minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this now is called the mature minors, and mature minors can decide whether or not they'd like to be euthanized. Well, this is what's coming down the pike. And we know this is coming down the pike because of a joint committee between the Senate and the House in the federal government, whereby they've even laid out their recommendations. And the recommendations, which they have published in February of 2023, of which most people are unaware, is that mature minors should be allowed to have M.A.I.D. Now, who's going to decide that? Well, it's going to be the recommendation between the child, mature minor, and the doctor, and that parents have nothing to do with it.
They have no say.
No, they have no say. None. So a mature minor now is any child who is going to be deemed precocious enough to be able to probably discuss the situation, just like 13-year-olds are getting, testosterone, and they're qualifying for mutilation by the time they're 16. Look, it's going to be parental rights again destroyed, parents pushed out of the situation, and perhaps they'll get a courtesy call to come pick up their child at the morgue.
Chilling.
And you will also see that there, and we have it on our Twitter page, is the handbook that Health Canada has produced for ages 6 to 12 years old.
6 to 12. Oh my gosh.
The M.A.I.D handbook for the children, where it's all very children friendly look to it. And it calls the poisons medicine. The medicine is there to help people, right? This they're talking about euthanasia, right?
And this is where can this be found? On the government?
This you can find it in government. We have it on our website, as our Twitter page as well.
Wow.
Just scroll down there and see it. We've got a picture, M.A.I.D activity book for children.
6 to 12 years old. This yes. I can't even repeat it without feeling nauseated. This is just sickening, for the lack of a better word. Do you know, so they're pushing this for 6 to 12-year-olds already.
Oh, already. Listen, this is what we'll call a fait accompli. This is done. This now just needs to be introduced as some sort of progressive policy, right? Because they're so progressive that now everybody can get murdered by the state, not just, the sick 80-year-old woman who, by the way, is still the majority of M.A.I.D victims in this country, are women the ages 75 to 85. So basically grandma. They're carting off grandma and mating her with impunity.
During COVID, if people were, pushing back against some of the mandates, some of the vaccines that they didn't want to take, and the masks that they refused to wear, they called those people grandma killers, ironically. And now the target of this program so far has been overwhelmingly grandmas. Yeah. So they're literally grandma killers, but they worried about grandma killers who didn't want to get an experimental injection.
It's always like that, isn't it?
The irony, I can't.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
So, we're in a position now where, to get this information out to just regular folks who, still think that there is a place for this. It's difficult because the message, the truth about the government euthanasia program called M.A.I.D, the truth about the Canadian cull is being buried. We have very difficult time to speak to normal people about, because they still believe somehow that giving the power to the state to kill its citizens will not be abused, right? We can never do that. We can never give this kind of power to the state and trust that it will be ever used sparingly, right? That is what I will just call a utopian fantasy.
Yeah.
You might be able to write a nice paper for intro utopian socialism about what the M.A.I.D program is supposed to be, but that's not reality. Reality is that you have an economy in Canada that is desperate. You have a medical system in Canada that's collapsing under its own weight, under the weight of 6 million people that they dumped into this country that we can't manage, right? So you have an economy mixed with an ideology about you're just a human, you don't matter, your life doesn't matter. We'll be utilitarian about this. You put the two together, you have the perfect storm for genocide, which is what we're seeing now in Canada, where they need to lie about how many people they've euthanized, where they continue to, they continue to expand the eligibility criteria, where nobody's safe. My organization has taken some very bold steps, which is why we're absolute pariahs, really, to be honest with you. In many places, I'm very outspoken about it to anybody who will listen. And we have developed some ways to protect each other. We have the Do Not Euthanize defense kit that we give freely to people.
Okay.
Come to our website, order one. We give you legal forms to take with you to a hospital. We talk about, listen, it's the buddy system. You don't go in alone. You don't take your eyes off your people inside the medical system.
Yeah.
Right? We have declarations that now say, don't talk to me about M.A.I.D because you will be violating section whatever of the criminal code. Don't even talk to me about it. We need to get these into people's hands. They need to have some way of empowering themselves inside the system. A system that really, depending on what you are when you walk in the door, are you old? Are you poor? Right? Are you really sick? You might take a lot of money to fix up. Do you have stage 4 cancer? Oh, all of these people now become vulnerable to a very predatory system.
Predatory. That's what it sounds like. I have a bit of a speculative question. Do you think that this arose, the introduction of M.A.I.D arose partly because the floodgates were open for mass immigration into this country? And like you said, how many millions of people were dumped on Canadian ground in the last decade? And as we can clearly see, as you said, the healthcare system is absolutely imploding and collapsing. And instead of admitting that it's a problem of how many people are pouring into this country without us lifting a single finger to expand our healthcare system, it's collapsing. They just decided that, under the guise of compassion, we're going to introduce this and still look like the good guys in the eyes of the NPCs that think M.A.I.D is compassionate and we need to be compassionate and keep our gates to Canada wide open because, we got to take in the refugees. We don't want to appear, isolationist or nationalist or whatever. Do you think that any of that could have played a role in M.A.I.D being introduced in Canada?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I do, because it's very much an economic question now. Like I said, they'll even come to your house to M.A.I.D you. When's the last time you ever got a house call because you were sick and needed help, right? Look,
well,
most
all
Canadians.
I know is it takes me 2 weeks to see a family doctor. If I need to be seen, I have to, log on the website. I can't even call them anymore. I have to make an appointment and wait for 2 weeks. Or I can go down to the only existing walk-in clinic that is in my city because the rest of them closed during the shutdowns. And I can wait, maybe 6 hours to possibly be seen, or not even at all if I get there too late in the day. And then my only other option is, go to the emergency room where it's another 3 to 4 hour wait if I'm lucky to try and see somebody. But if you want to be offed, if you want to be deleted, they'll just come to your door after a 5-minute phone call. That is beyond dystopian, Angelina.
Yes. And, listen, they have created, the Liberal government of Canada under Trudeau and now Carney, are all the same people anyways.
Yeah.
They have created a humanitarian crisis in this country. Housing and healthcare. what are you going to do with a humanitarian crisis? Well, if you admit it, you might lose power. So they're finding ways to deal with it. And I don't
So,
think that comes as a surprise to anyone.
yeah, rather than admit a wrong, they would rather cull the Canadian population, essentially, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's my opinion,
Liberalism,
whatever it's worth.
liberalism, compassion. Yeah, that's so okay. So we covered the challenges that you're facing. So you said um, they've pulled your funding, uh, they've confiscated equipment. Was that right?
They confiscated the building,
The
everything,
building, everything. So
everything.
what are the next steps for the Delta Hospice Society? Do you have any avenue? Do you have any recourse in BC, or do you think you
Yeah.
need to look elsewhere for existing if you're going to continue?
So what we want to, like, we don't have bricks and mortar. We have an organization that we have fought for tooth and nail against the euthanasia activists in this country, and we won. We have protected our organization. We will never participate in the government euthanasia program that's culling our countrymen and women.
Mm-hmm.
So we now want to open another hospice. We believe we have the funds, the assets in order to do that. The problem, of course, in British Columbia is that the EB government won't even speak to us.
Wow.
So here you have a private organization that has money that wants to donate services, healthcare services to the public healthcare system. And EB and the BC NDP won't even speak to us because they're not welcoming any organization or healthcare that won't kill people, bottom line. So we are now looking at, we have no bricks and mortar. We want a hospice again because we believe we need to protect people in this country. We need to take care of them so that they know they are safe when they come into a facility. And the BC is not going to allow us to do that. So we are now looking at Alberta.
Okay.
And preliminarily, we have had some very promising discussions with the Alberta government.
Okay.
See, because in Alberta, they do believe that we as an organization could come and open a facility and take care of people. See, they don't have a problem with that because they're not ideologues, right? They're
Right.
not like insane.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. So you said that your organization is willing to donate time, money, staff, people, care to patients, and the NDP EB government said no. We're not going to let you give care to people in
That's right.
in a province where healthcare is on the brink of collapse.
That's right. That's right. Which
Disgusting.
actually is par for the course because, healthcare in British Columbia has been taken over by this government and the unions. Every private organization that has tried to do anything to help lessen the load off the taxpayer has been pushed out. So the state has an absolute monopoly on the patient here in British Columbia. Alongside the unions, right? So they got it all sewed up. So anybody who wants to come and help, no, you're not welcome. You're not allowed. So yeah, they don't care if I go off to Alberta and open $1 million or $3, $4, $5 million facility for people there, as long as we're not doing it in BC.
Wow, that is beyond. Well, it just shows the kind of government that they are. They don't care. They claim to care about people, but they don't really. So you said the Alberta government is much more amenable to having this facility there. So
Yeah.
is that the next steps for you? Is that what you're looking to do next then?
Yeah, I mean, this is our mission. We must provide palliative care. So since we must, we will go to the place where we can. And so that's what I'm looking there. I've made a couple of trips already over to Alberta to scope it out, to talk with politicians, to visit certain communities.
Who have you met with there? Who have you met with? Politicians?
With ministers.
Okay.
Yeah. Health ministers. Yeah. Looked at properties. We're going to do this. We need to do this. We can't sit idly and wait for, CRA to come for us because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing to wait for ourselves to be audited by, we've already been audited by everybody because they came after us. Can't be sitting here doing nothing because the BC NDP has decided that they don't like us.
So that was under the direction of the NDP government that you were audited by CRA and other
Well,
agencies?
who knows who told them? But yeah, we've been
Right.
audited by CRA. We've been audited by the provincial. We've been looked at every which way. We've had all of our funding cut. The city of Delta has taken away our tax-free status. We pay city of Delta $35,000 a year to operate a thrift store. They made it almost impossible for us to stay here. They've, like I said, we treat us like pariahs. They do everything they can. They've literally come and egged my house.
Oh my
I've had to put security cameras up around my property, to keep these people away from me. This is where we live. And I'll tell you something about British Columbia and the M.A.I.D program in British Columbia. No one knows what the hell's going on. They're completely dark. Look, we know that the person who runs the M.A.I.D program in British Columbia is also the person who polices the M.A.I.D program in British Columbia.
Okay.
We have no oversight committee in British Columbia like they have in other provinces. So nobody's policing them. Nobody's talking about what they're doing. The chief coroner hasn't had a report about it since 2016. Look, whatever's going on in this province, we know that we are probably the largest euthanasia providers in the world in British Columbia.
BC is.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, we're run by a socialist, so that seems not a surprise to me.
You probably already know people who've been mated here. Everybody knows somebody who's been mated.
Yeah.
Everybody knows somebody who's been asked if they would like to have MAID. The law around MAID is that the doctor's not supposed to bring it up. That was one of the things. It has to come from the patient. We've got doctors all over the place bringing it up every single day. Oh, you have
How are they
stage 4
getting
cancer.
away with that? That's insane.
That's against the law, but you have organizations, national organizations like CAMAP, being funded, given $6 million by the federal government to write up guidelines to send to every single health professional in Canada, telling them they have an obligation to bring up MAID to their patient. Right? That's against the criminal. That's against the what? Oh no, they act with impunity. They do what they like. And at the end of the day, it is probably the most successful government program ever run by the Liberals historically, because we know, and the NDP, because we know that once you let socialists and communists take a hold of your government, the only thing they do well is kill people.
Yeah, they're good at destroying things, the country, its citizens, everything. Angelina, there's one more thing that I wanted to ask you about, and I'm not sure if I remember this correctly. Maybe you can refresh my mind. At some point, I think when we spoke over the phone, you mentioned, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you mentioned organ harvesting that's tied into M.A.I.D.
Yes.
Was that correct?
That's correct.
Can you speak about that?
Yeah.
Is it safe to speak about that for you?
Well, I don't think it's safe for me to speak about anything, but I carry on,
Okay.
Canada has now become the leader in the world of this organ harvesting procedures and a lot of MAID victims become organ donors. We lead the world. Okay. I don't have to tell you.
Are they being encouraged to be organ donors before they're mated, or they're already organ donors?
No, they're being encouraged.
They're being encouraged.
I do believe. Yes, I do believe.
Wow.
You're finding certain legislation now that people have to opt out of organ donation. Opt out. Say, I'm not interested. Right. And so we find that, again, a lot of the information around this is not transparent. We know the things that they admit to, which is that, Canada is a leader in this. We know that MAID recipients, a lot of their organs have been harvested. MAID recipients. We know that there was a book written years ago called the red market. And the red market talks about the global trade in human organs. It's big money. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for a liver, a kidney, cornea. You know what I mean? Like this is, and I'll also add to you that Canadians are premium stock.
That's a chilling, that's a chilling statement, a chilling term, stock. That's probably how they view us. I just wanted to clarify something. When you said MAID patients have to opt out of organ donation, so
Canadians.
Canadians. Okay,
So there's legislation now in the East, I believe in the Maritimes, that if you don't opt out, you opted in.
okay, so if you say nothing, they can just take your organs.
Right. So, you know, I'll get a lot of pushback for this statement that the push is to harvest the organs. And there's, I think it's a pretty fair statement, actually, you know, considering that they do admit that Canada is among the leaders in this practice. There's much that we don't know, and that's interesting, right? There's not a lot of transparency around this, which is interesting.
Nor do we expect it, I guess.
Right. We know that something came out last month in the National Post about somebody in the US having an organ from a MAID recipient, MAID person. He got that, they got the organ, right? So they were, so, you know, this is just little bits that are coming out. But I do think that is probably the new frontier. We know that there's been papers written by doctors that talk about pre-mortem intervention around harvesting organs before MAID is done. So look, you can't harvest an organ if the person's dead. You can't even get the true numbers about how many people have been mated in this country. So, you know, it's a great big, huge cover up. They don't want to talk about it because they have this little fantasy in this little bubble. Everybody's floating around on a peppermint fart about how beautiful it is, you know, how it's so special, dignity, human rights. You know, you need to pop that bubble, first of all, and recognize that is not the reality.
Yeah.
That you have to try to protect yourself, protect your family. All of these MAID laws should be repealed. Bill C-14, Bill C-7, gone. You don't get to do that to us.
Yeah.
We want health care. We want palliative care, right? You don't get to just murder us and then use our organs and then throw us in the garbage. So, you know, I don't even want to talk about any of this stuff they've got in the House of Commons right now about mental health. I mean, that's just a useless nothing burger about let's just not let them kill people who have mental illness. Listen, they're already killing people who have mental illness.
Yeah.
They just go after the comorbidity. They go after another reason why to qualify them.
Right.
It's happening. So I'm not even wasting my time with this. You know, the whole thing needs to be repealed. And we need to say no.
We
no
do.
more.
Yeah. Yeah.
The end.
Angelina, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me and to talk about this. Do you want to quickly point people to your website and where they can go to find all this information once again? I think I can pull it up here. I saved the screenshot. So find the, do you want to mention the things that they can find on your website, like the buddy system that you talked about, the documents?
Yes, please. It's called the DNE Defense Kit.
Okay.
And it's, hold on here. And so the DNE Defense Kit on our website, deltahospicesociety.org.
Okay.
Go on there, order it. You get a do not euthanize advance directive, a declaration. We'll even give you a card to put in your wallet that says, I require health care, not MAID.
Okay.
Okay, we keep track of you. We know that you got one of those cards. You know that you had no interest in MAID, right? We'll give you the legal forms. We'll give you the card. That's one of the ways that you could protect yourself. That's one of the ways of, you know, truly peaceful resistance against a system that has gone insane. So ask you to come to our website. We have everything there that I talked about. We try to post everything, try to keep people involved. We'll try to continue to post on Twitter, all of the things that we feel are important for you to not miss. But you will find that there's very few voices in this country talking about this for a reason, right? There's a lot of people making a lot of money on just going along with it. And a lot of people who become intimidated, doctors who will lose their licenses, they don't get on board. So we haven't really anything to lose. They've already taken our hospice. We'll go make another one somewhere else. We'll always make another one because we do believe we have support of the people of Canada. That's all we want.
Absolutely.
We don't care if the mayor or the MLAs or the prime minister doesn't like us.
Yeah.
All we care about is that we're going to be able to provide some authentic health care to people who really need it.
Amen. Angelina, God bless you for doing your work. You're a brave woman. Once again, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. And I look forward to more information on Twitter, well, now X. And I will process this and post this as soon as possible. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching. Please smash that like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, follow me on X, or subscribe to me on X if you want to support me there, and I'll see you next time.